I wasn't live.
The broadcast is
So,
live now.
so now it's broadcasting. Well, I went through the whole spiel of introduction and I'm going to go through it again. Welcome to Impromptu. I thought we were live and we were not. So here we are, and I am again Tony Sawyer. This is my
Good to have you
husband,
with us
Clifton,
again.
and my sidekick co host, which is Norman Armstrong.
J. Hewitt Edward
Hey,
Rockwell.
what's up, everybody? Good
So,
afternoon.
so we have no guests yet, but that's okay. We always come in, as I mentioned before, we come in talking about whatever's on our hearts, and we have been talking for months about living in the atmosphere of change. And there's Vern Vern. She's the first one here today,
What's up, Slice?
living in the atmosphere of change.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, and I think everybody we know can say they've been going through changes. Hello, Diana. Hello, Israel. And Dee Dee. Hey, Dee Dee. But adjusting to change is not the easiest thing in the world because we tend to want to have everything set in a pattern and a routine. We don't really like a lot of fluctuations.
Mm-hmm.
We want things to remain the same, especially when we find what works for us, and then all of a sudden something or someone throws a cog in the wheel, and you got to readjust.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that knowing who you are helps you to navigate through the changes. When you don't know who you are, you tend to find yourself in a situation of being disturbed instead
Mm-hmm.
of in a place of expectancy of the answer.
Exactly.
Let's look at it like
And
this. Go ahead.
one of the things that we need to understand, and also in addition to knowing who we also have to be reminded that change is constant. Change is something that is
Yes.
going to constantly manifest and happen. And so,
Exactly.
as we shared before, change is irrevocable. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. And
Yes, it is.
so, one of the things is how we approach change, how we perceive change. Oftentimes, like you just said, Ma, when we get so used to doing the same thing over and over and over, we find this level of comfortability, and so we don't want no one to disturb, what we become familiar with or used to. But I see change as part of growing. It's a growth process,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
if
yeah.
change is not occurring in your life, then obviously you're not growing.
There's
And
stagnation.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah. That's another way to
exactly.
look at it because a lot of times we resist change. Uh, but when you look at it as in the same way that you just mentioned of this is an expansion of who you are, and so change appears to us as challenges, and so those challenges are prompting us, luring us, baiting us to go further, beyond our comfort zones.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge a few people that have come in since we've been talking. Hey, Buzz, I'm glad you're here. Calvin Roberson, hadn't seen you in ages. I am so glad to see you on
Good to see
here.
you.
And Vincent Kelly from California is here already. And Deb is in here. Calvin says change as a growth process is good. Yes, and here's
Exactly.
yes, and Brand's here. So yes, and like I said, all of us have gone through changes. You started something before we got on live. What
Okay.
you want to go ahead with it?
Yeah. I'm noticing in the book, Jesus told people with the final verdict that God was in him as oneness.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
I and my Father are one.
Hmm.
Then he turned around and say, I go to the Father, you see me no more.
Yes.
Then he says, he that believeth in the Father, believe in me.
Hmm.
Now wait a minute. He told them about Lazarus, his friend. Well, he didn't come when they wanted him to. But now here's what I'm pointing to. When are we? I know about enlightenment. I know about waking up from the false self, the real self.
Yeah, yeah.
They when you go online and you go on eBay, Facebook, and you could start to sign in on eBay. Sometimes they'll put a sign, a chart up there to tell how many fire hydrants do you see in this picture.
Yeah, you got to prove that
you
are not a robot.
And then one of the things you said, one thing it says, are you? Are you or somebody else?
I guess they think a robot couldn't answer those questions.
But hold on now, hold your underwear. Now, I'm bringing this to you. I'm bringing it.
Bring it to us.
Bring it
on
to you.
in.
I'm setting it, laying it on the
bring
table.
It on home to
at
me.
the table. At the table.
You remember that old song?
Table.
You remember that old song?
Yeah, I remember some of it.
Bring it on home to me.
Yeah.
Bring it on home to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. my cousin used to sing that.
Bring it on home. All he knows is
yeah. He used to sing another call. I heard some old guy over there in Greensboro. He was see, he got me all messed up.
I know, but go on, bring it on home now. Bring it on home.
He said, I sung a song to him. He's about 80 years old. Said, I hadn't heard that song in years. I said, here it comes.
No, don't sing that song.
Why?
Because that's not an appropriate song.
Well, it's going to be appropriate if I sing it.
Don't sing that song.
Yes,
no.
He said, I hadn't heard that song in years.
Well, don't sing it.
I'm going to sing it to you before it's over with.
Go ahead and bring it on home.
You're going to bring it on home, but I'll sing it too.
Just bring
Back
it on home.
Back in them days, you couldn't eat unless you cut a step. You got to cut.
Bring it on home.
Okay. When Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was bringing it on home, was coming, went and met him, but Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto him, Jesus. Now watch it. Now y'all understand this. This is you that is going through this in John 11 and 20. Okay. You've experienced this. Okay, consciousness. Then said Martha, Jesus, Lord, if thou hast been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, that whatsoever thou acts of God. Now over here he said acts of God, he said God will give it. Then over here in the 30th verse he said, I and the Father are one. Is it not written in your law? And I said it, ye are gods.
Yes.
I'm trying to tell you just like me. That's what he's saying. I'm trying to tell you just like I am. I am, you are. Now watch it. Let me go on now. Anything you ask of God. Now here's my point. Little pies and little pies and apple dumplings. Listen to this. Listen to this. Can you stand in front of somebody, and this is where you coming to, and tell them, if you would believe on me and who it is standing here. See, we ain't going for enough in this thing. Are you saved? That's not. Don't even try that no more. That's done wore out. That's done wore the machine out. You can't get no more juice out of that apple. It's dry as a bone. If God is really sitting right here beside each other, he said to me one time, have I not been so long in the bed?
But don't we all, and I know you're saying we should,
come on.
We all should come to that recognition, right, of where God actually is. And it be actually true for us, not just saying it because we,
now you're talking.
Not just saying it because we think that's what we should say or how we should think, but it actually is a truth, it's a declaration of truth.
We have to have stirring up. We have to have program. We have to have a desire. We have to have a want. And then we talk about God.
So the feeling of powerlessness is like it's facing us.
Okay, here it
The
comes.
feeling
I
of
feel it coming.
powerlessness versus that we are.
Yeah. Stand before yourself is standing before God,
Yeah.
sitting beside himself.
Now, Norman wanted to say something,
Go
didn't
ahead.
you?
Well, going back to what y'all have been sharing before concerning operating in dualism.
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
while Bishop was sharing that, and I thought about the incident in Genesis chapter 11 when the Bible said that there was a people that went to the territory called Shinar to build a
Yes.
tower
Yes.
that would reach heaven. And so when you think about it, because it never says why he decided to confuse their language. Because remember, before he done that,
Yeah.
he looked down from heaven and he said that the people were one
One.
and they were of one language.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever they would imagine, it would not be strange
They
from
could
them.
accomplish it. Yes.
And
Yes.
so
Yeah, I've
when I
always
wrap my
wondered
mind,
about that because that doesn't sound. It doesn't sound reasonable to confuse them when they're already acting as one.
right. So I came to the conclusion as I kept researching that why would he confuse them? Why would he bring them to a place where they could not understand one another? And it goes back to what y'all been teaching for a while. They wanted to accomplish what they were setting out to do separate from God himself. They were looking for power. They was trying to find a reason to say that we don't need you or we don't need to be one with you. We can accomplish these things ourselves
On our
because
own,
we are
yes.
created in your image and in your likeness. We have your attributes. And so that was the only conclusion that I could come to as I began to study that they were trying to do something separate and apart from God himself. So they did not want to operate as one. They want to operate separate from him.
So they were one with one another because they all had the same intention, as Israel mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
However, their ego desire had left out, or I won't say it like that. The ego desire was being carried out as though they were coming from a different identity. Had nothing to do with their spiritual identity, their spirit. There had nothing to do with, like you said, had nothing to do with God at all. So it was like they were being autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but they were being autonomous.
wait a minute.
Okay.
Take a stop at the light. It's on red. Stop. Am I the Spirit of God just like Jesus was in the book?
Am I that?
Am I that same
Am I
essence?
that? Am I that? Yes.
That would be a good topic for you to write today. Am I that?
Am I that?
Now wait a minute. Is it possible that when I put my ID up in front of the airport or somewhere that's checking my ID, they look at the ID and they look at me? Back when I was 20 and look at me now, I don't look like I did then. All right, here's my point.
You changed.
Yeah, but now wait a minute. If he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, baby, doc, y'all listen. I want y'all to listen. I'm working on something. I'm working on something now.
I hear you. Go ahead.
I'm working.
Work
And here's
on
the
it.
working.
Work on it.
I'll never have to tell anybody else to go home and pray to God if I am fully aware.
And convinced.
Don't you say one word. Let me seek the Lord. Who do you think is standing in front of you? Who do you think you've been talking to? Oh, if you can't go home and pray to God without talking to who I am standing in front of you.
So it's coming to the same recognition that Jesus came to when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Mm-hmm.
Who is this that we? Somebody don't believe it, or somebody lying. If I ask you, have you received the Holy Ghost since you believed and all that kind of stuff? All right. Do you keep getting that over and over again? Didn't one time take? You either awake or sleep. Now,
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Listen to this.
That's right.
You're not gonna tell me you fully awake with just oneness.
You're not fully awake if you are still fluctuating back
Thank you.
back and
Thank
forth
you.
between
Thank
that
you.
I
Thank
am
you.
that you
Thank
are
you.
and that sense of being powerless. There's that sense of being powerless. We've got to transcend that.
If somebody call you and say, Pastor Norman, is your wife in the building yet? You say, no, I left her at home. I don't know where she is now. She might be back in the back. But then you pick up the phone home and you hear somebody in the back of your room back there. You say, oh, she's here. You know where she is. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Where is God? Can you find him? Do you know where he's at?
That's good, Reverend. That's good.
Come on, let me show you where it's
You're
at.
bringing it home.
Come on, let me show you where it's at. The name of the place. I like it like that. Come on, come on. Let me show you. Come on, let me show you where it's at. Come on.
I'm gonna join. I'm gonna audition for y'all praise team.
Now we are
Notice
the praise
singing a
team.
lot.
Let me tell you something. Somebody.
Wait a minute. Wait, before you go, wait, you about to pop.
I'm popping now. You better go ahead.
Back in the day when Norman, when you first came to Cornerstone, I was chief cook and bottle washer. I don't know if you knew that, but I was working the sound system, doing the praise team.
Oh, I remember that.
I was counting the money.
That's right.
I was going to the bank. I was picking up the mail. I was cleaning the chair. I was the cook, but I was doing it all. I was doing it all. So yeah, I understand.
Is God. Is God who you say you are allegiance to?
Is God who you say you are?
Is God. I'm telling you this thing. He told Mom, what got Lazarus out of the grave was God being in the present moment.
In that form.
In that
It's funny
form.
that you said
that
that
form,
because you mentioned about praying.
Okay.
And so in that same chapter, when Jesus was going to the tomb, in verse 41, it said, then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, so of course, they perceived him as praying.
Yes.
He says, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. So notice, Jesus, he knew that he didn't have to pray. He didn't have to present a request because again, going back to St. John 10, verse 30, he knew that I and the Father were one. But for the sake of the people, he portrayed himself as praying and asking God a request when he knew that he was the very embodiment of God and the embodiment of resurrection. He only did it because of the people and their mindsets.
Yes, but he was fixed, wasn't
he? Exactly. He was present. He just did it to once again to pacify the people.
So it's like it's the reverse for us in a sense, because what we do for the people is act like we are fixed. But then in the back of our minds, we don't really believe that's what we are. And so you're talking about coming to a fixed recognition where there is absolutely no more self-doubt. And that's what Jesus did. He came to in the wilderness when he was his whole identity was being tested. And he transcended it. He came to a point of fixed awareness of who he is before he came out of the wilderness. And there's a scripture that says he came out in power.
You
Exactly.
are saying that God had a destination. My God, my Lord. He had a road to travel and a map to read and a place to end up. When God got there, oh God Almighty, when God got there, he knocked on his door and somebody let him in. And when he went in, he said, if anybody want to find me now, they got to come to this place. This is where I'm going to be. And if you want to find me, come to me. Now, God did the same thing with our body, and we agreed with him. He is now, I'm talking to him in this Lord.
Well, you said, if find me, this is where I am now, come to me. Jesus said, I go to the Father.
Yes.
But he said
So
the Father.
he went there.
Yeah,
He
okay.
went there. I remember
I
years
got
ago,
you,
you
I got
made me
you.
think about this. Years
Yeah.
ago, this is way before we even had a building. We had started the church. We were in a motel room, room 808 at the Summit Motel, the Oaks Motel on Summit Avenue. And by the way, we used to live on 808 Oaks Summit
That's
Road.
the truth, man.
And this room was in the corner, and we lived on the corner. So that's why we got the name Cornerstone. But anyway, you were ministering that Sunday. I'll never forget it. And I was standing on the very front row, and you were standing like to my left, and you were in the middle aisle, just kind of walking around, and you were ministering intuitively to somebody. I can't remember who. I got to that. I went to where you were. I went there.
That's right, you did.
I went into this place where it was nothing but an absolute infinite room of knowledge, not just knowledge, but intuitive knowledge. I got into that room, and you stopped. I'll never forget it. You stopped right there, and you said, "What are you doing here?" I'll never forget that. I went to where you were and where you minister from, and it was a place. It was a.
You went into
like,
the secret place.
It was a point.
Yes,
it was a place.
She signified.
It was a place.
Well,
Yes.
knows it.
And that's funny because even Jesus, going back what you said, co-pastor, concerning, he said, he goes to be with the Father. But he said, I go to a place. And then he says, you shall be there also.
He said, and you'll see me no more.
Yeah, you will see, but you will be there.
He wasn't talking about dying.
No, and he was, and we often think he's talking about heaven, but he's talking about a particular state of awareness. And so Paul, who walked in awareness and walked in his true identity, he also made a statement that we will be seated in heavenly places, that as he is, so are we in this life. You see what I'm saying? So when Jesus gave the model prayer, and he said that we should pray as it is in heaven, so shall it be in the earth. He's trying to bring us to that state of awareness that everything operates all as one. So there's really no separation from heaven, and there's no really separation of earth. It is that way because of our state of thinking. So he said, if we could get to that place, what we've been looking for in heaven, we can actually have the manifestation of it right now. We don't have to wait to go there, because we are if God is the embodiment of heaven and he's in us and we're one with him, then we have heaven right here.
Yes, and Jesus became the embodiment of the Father. He said, I go to the Father. So what evidently happened inside himself, Jesus as the person left being Jesus in his recognition, in his realization, in his awareness, and went to being the Father. And that's why I said, when you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He went to being the Father.
How much would it cost to go find somebody that have a commodity that I've been looking for? And when I go find them, I find that commodity. I get it and I bring it home with me. And any time I need that, I know where to go to find it. Meaning this, Jesus was going and coming 24/7 in his
Yes,
life.
yes, yes,
He was going in and out of
yes.
consciousness.
In and out of
In
Father
other words, he
consciousness.
was
Yes.
one that's going in and one that's coming out.
Oh, you're right. Because in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was wrestling with this thing. And there was, like I said before, he was panicked. He was afraid
Dislocate
because he
yourself.
knew his body was getting ready to go to the cross. He knew that's what was getting ready to happen.
Mhm.
And so he wrestled with that, and he had to come to a point in that praying in the Garden of Gethsemane where he left that identity of being that Jesus body, had to go to the Father.
Where can I find God?
And when they came after him, all he had to say was, I am. And they all fell backwards.
Didn't have to go somewhere. Wait a minute, let me go pray a little bit.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, let me listen to what God's got to say. Wait a minute, let me see. Let me find something in the book.
Well, Jesus' prayer
Never,
in Gethsemane
never,
wasn't,
never.
it started out as, deliver me from this mission that I've got to go to the cross. Deliver me from that. That's what it started out as. But then he surrendered in the middle of that, and he accepted it. And his prayer then was not to help him. He came out understanding that he was more than that body. And that's when he could say, I am, and all of the power that was necessary was right there.
But
Here's what happened.
I like that event because it shows a tug of war
Yes,
again of his humanity and his divinity. To see
yes,
again, we have to remember Jesus again being all God. All right. Going back to St. John, 1. In the beginning was the
Was
Word, and
the
the Word
Word.
was with God, and the Word was God. All right. And of course, verse 14, it talks about the incarnation. He became flesh and dwelt among us. Now, dealing with the Garden of Gethsemane, once again, here, Jesus knew he had to face the cross. He
Yes.
knew what the assignment was. And when the time came closer to him having to face the cross, now we see that false identity, which again evolves
Or the
you know,
human identity.
human
Yes.
side,
Just that human
now
identity.
saying, if there's any other way we could do this, please take this cup away from me. But then he switches back and he said, if it be your will.
Will. Yeah.
So now he is now switched back to the place of knowing who he is. And then when they come, he makes the statement. Now, isn't that amazing? Because I wanted to share that, and I wanted the people to see that, because we go through, and we talked about this last time when I mentioned to y'all, I preached a message years ago entitled Afflictions by Design.
Yeah.
Again, we go through these struggles in life, not to damage us or to destroy us. The reason why it's so damaging to us, and the reason why we feel so distressed and so perplexed, is because our perception of what's happening.
Yes.
But if we understand that affliction or that suffering is actually by design, and we perceive it and embrace it in a way that we will benefit to us, because it would bring us to a place and push us into a place of realizing who we are.
Yes.
For example,
Yes.
we've all been through a lot of different things in our life, suffering, anguish, sicknesses, or whatever. But guess what? You're not sick no more. You're not distressed no more. You're not frustrated no more. So we perceive those things as something that can destroy us, end us, whatever. But then we're still yet here. I had an incident in a time of great suffering myself. I was going through something. I just shared this with somebody this week. And it was amazing. All this time I'm going through this, I'm crying. I'm pleading, God, why am I going through this? Why this happened to me? I've did everything right. I lived according to your word and what was taught to me. And I could not wrap my mind around why this happened to me. Now, I've been preaching for years, pastoring as well. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of me saying all of this to God, my Father, I heard this. He said, Norman, do you realize something? I mean, in the midst of all of this, boo-hooing,
Mm-hmm.
carrying on, screaming, hollering,
Mm-hmm.
why me? Why me? He said, did you notice something? And all that you're going through, did you realize you could still hear my voice?
Thank you.
And it shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
It changed my whole paradigm right there. I didn't realize going through all that I was going through, that I'm sitting there having a conversation with him and not realize I'm hearing him as well.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
goes back to what Jesus said. He said, Father, I know you always hear me, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm perceiving this act of prayer and asking and begging you to come and visit and raise Lazarus out. But I'm just doing it for the sake of the people so that they will believe.
Yes.
So he
Yes.
had to slowly bring them to a process of enlightenment.
Yes, yes, that's good. That is so good. One thing I wanted to say, based on what you mentioned, you said we were sick at once, and we came out of it. There's some who don't come out of it. Like I'm looking at Buzz. I know Buzz is having some physical challenges that he cannot come out of. They've been there for quite a while. But I remember there was this young lady that came on America's Got Talent, maybe I think it was the last season. They called her Nightbird.
Mm-hmm.
She was going through chemo because she had cancer, and she was very vibrant. Even though she had cancer, she didn't look sad. She didn't look worn out. She didn't look. And she made a statement, and I've never forgotten this statement. She said, "Why wait until things change to be happy?" And this goes back to what you're saying. Even
Say
in a
that
hood,
again, Mom. Please say
why
that
wait?
again.
Why wait for things to change for you to be happy? She made
Exactly.
a she made a commitment to herself. She's going to be happy before things changed. So
Exactly.
even though she didn't do this in a religious sense, she didn't go to the Father in a religious sense. Going to that place of being okay is going to the Father. That place inside yourself where you are okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we've got some wonderful comments. Pastor, can I read a few of them? Vincent May said this way back. We were talking so much, we just got popped. We didn't think about what you guys were saying. But Vincent said, if you're awake, you remove the fig leaf for good. And
And I've been reading that comment the whole time, and Vincent, and see, that's so good because when you remove the fig leaves, you become totally naked.
there you go. Transparent.
Exactly, which means you're
Transparent.
not trying to use anything to cover who you really are.
Got nothing to hide. I'm
Exactly.
the same person behind closed doors as I am when I'm out in front. Same person.
Exactly.
Should not be a different person because I've got nothing to hide. Lady Gwen says if people knew you're then, they could better celebrate your now. That's a good one.
Mhm.
And Vincent said again, Jesus was in a transforming union with God. Oh, I love that, Vincent, because there is what I call existential union, which
Mhm.
every one of us has that oneness with God. None of us are separate. But then transformational union is when that oneness is gone so deep, it's consummated and it's begun to change you. And that you talked about the transfiguration the last time we came on. That
Mhm.
transfiguring starts to take place. And you are not the same person at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
And
And
so, yes, see what else. Brand says she and Kai, that's her little girl, do self affirmations every morning just to align. That's
mhm.
good. That's good, Brand. That's good. And Vince is repeating what we said. Jesus became the Father. So Jesus was going through birth pains in the garden.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. Now, Connie says we oftentimes look at
Now,
adversity as detrimental, not that the
if
situation will
Jesus was
always
going
work.
through birth pains,
Mhm.
what were they? What were the birth pains for?
Right. What was being
And
birthed?
well, yeah, now he had a baby inside of it.
He was
Now watch
pregnant with
this.
something,
Wait a
wasn't
minute. Wait a minute. Hold on now. You can find out what was in him if you go back to the garden. Adam was pregnant with Eve.
he? Mm-hmm.
Let's mess it up a little bit more.
Okay, mess it up.
He was pregnant with us,
That's what I
Yes.
was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. Yes.
Yes.
and they called us Eve.
Mhm. Now, Bishop, you should not have said that.
Y'all about
Ah,
shoot about
You
that.
should not have said that.
they
You
should
should not have
not have
said
said it.
that because, and I admit to call y'all and tell you this a couple of weeks ago.
Somebody pregnant.
I I no, ain't nobody praying.
Oh my God.
Nobody praying. But when you said that, I played with that in my head several weeks ago. How going back to the creation story, how God once again formed man from what? The earth, and then he
Yeah.
breathed in him and he became a living soul. And he called him Adam.
Yes.
But Jesus is also known as Adam.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, but this
Yes.
time he goes into Mary, who is also symbolic of Mother Earth,
There you
Mm-hmm.
go.
and he
We reversed it.
forms himself inside of her like he formed himself inside of what he created in the creation story.
Same way.
All he did was do the same process all over again.
Yes.
All see what they got to understand. All God needs is a matrix to form something.
A blank slate.
Exactly. That's all it is. And so
Mhm.
I saw Mary as Mother Earth.
Yes. 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 That's
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here we
Okay.
go.
I got a couple more
Okay.
comments. All
Go
right.
ahead.
And Vincent says Jesus loved as his true self, which brought him to perfection in the sense he became the love of God, which is in every way perfect. Yes, sir. That's good. Good information. Oliver is on here. Hey, Ollie. There's current teachings that indicate that the experience of the cross wasn't a requirement of God, but a choice of Jesus to serve as proof that moral death isn't real, but eternal life is our reality. Wow. Wow.
And that is so true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is so true because again, I mean, Jesus said it simply. I am the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life.
And
There there is no death.
and he spoke that out of his realization. He
Mhm,
wasn't making affirmation. He
mhm.
spoke from his realization, what he actually realized. Like I've used this analogy before. It's like when a little boy or a little girl begins to realize, I'm a girl and I'm a boy. That's something that takes place. It's like an awareness of something that you weren't aware of before.
Mhm.
So it's us coming to this awareness of
And,
what we were
and I
not
like that,
aware of
Mom.
before.
You made me think about my daughter Shannon when she was little. Um, when she started school, I never forget because y'all know Shannon has this long hair and she's
Mhm.
bright skin just like
Beautiful
her dad
girl, beautiful
and
girl.
so forth. When Shannon was in the first grade, I never forget. She came home when and told her mother and myself that she was white. And so we looked at her. We said, "What? You what?" She said, "Every day, that even the teacher said, no, sweetheart, you're white." And so we're like, "What you mean?" You so when you said that, when the children become aware of them being a boy or a girl, we have to often wonder who is assisting them at that time of their awakening or becoming aware of something.
Mhm.
And so here it is. I got the kids because first of all, it was they were saying that she was white because of the texture of her hair. All right. It
And
was
her skin color. And her skin color.
exactly. It was kind of uncommon for quote unquote African
Blacks.
American
Blacks to
uh,
have that kind of
have
hair.
that type of hair and
Yes.
so forth and so and then be that long at the same time.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so we said, no, sweetheart, we don't care what you say, but see, we have to remember this. It dealing with the human side of us, we're none of us is actually the fullness of whatever we think our ethnic group is.
Right.
We're not. I
You're
mean,
not. You're not
for
black or
example,
white.
her
Mhm.
mama, Shannon's mama, had green eyes, and
Yeah.
so she went through that process as a child as well. because it was unusual for African Americans
Have those
to
kind of
have green eyes. So they considered her to be white as well,
mm-hmm,
and so forth. So again, we have to wonder who is at particular stages in our life, who is influencing us at that time, that causing us to become aware of certain things.
yes, yes. And then I wonder too, based on what you just said, when did Shannon realize that she was black? Even though her face didn't look black, her hair didn't look black. When did she have the realization of being black? And
Mhm.
so realization comes when you become aware of something. And so what you are saying to us, Pastor, is that we must become aware of that we truly are and not live so much in the identity of that human self that we are.
We will all meet our true selves.
Mm-hmm.
That song says, when we all get to heaven, we will sing and shout the victory. Listen, you will sing it before you get there.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout the
Walking it like
victory. Yeah.
beautiful. Uh, I'm going to tell you this. And this is what he's been, I've been, my instructions here are this.
Okay.
I want to tell everybody I meet, I am not interested in hearing them say anything to me about whether they know God or not. I can hear and detect in everybody I meet the eternal self.
Mm-hmm.
That is the self that I'm talking to, along with the conditioned self when I meet people.
Yeah.
I want to tell every one of them that I meet, you will be in heaven when I get there, unless you go there before I do.
Mm-hmm.
And turn around and walk away from them. I want to, it's something there within me. You will be there. Every last person you meet in there. I don't care. The mean mama.
Because you are there
Okay.
as home.
Listen to this. Therefore they doeth my Father love me, because I lay down my life that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again.
Yes.
This commandment have I received of my Father. Now listen to this.
So that goes back to what Oliver had mentioned,
Mhm.
that it was a choice that Jesus made. Yes.
You do not die because it is your time. You do not die because you get old. You do not die because you get sick.
Mm-hmm.
You fixed this thing up before you got here, and you said on the documents, when this cancer get this certain place, or this riot come up, or this hammer that come toward my head,
When this birthday comes up.
when this birthday come up, I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
We decided and determined how we were going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus knew how he was going to leave. He said they were going to pin him to a post and nail him to a tree and put him up in the air, and in 3 days they're gonna bury him. In 3 days he come back.
Now this is what's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
In the confines of the sacred script of the Bible, Jesus did all of that for us.
Mm-hmm.
In the actuality of the law of one, of the law of oneness. All of that took place as a projection from God as a dream.
Okay.
And so the dream, the dreamer came into the dream to wake us up out of it.
Yes.
Okay? God is the dreamer. God dreamed all of that. God is dreaming all of this. Dreamed all that to deliver or wake us up from the illusion of being in this dream and believing that it's real. And
Mom, that goes back to the movie The Matrix.
yeah,
They had the matrix was formed and designed,
Yeah.
and then they had to go into the matrix to pull people
Mm-hmm.
out of
They
that dream state.
had to
Yep.
go into the dream
Yep.
to set people free from the dream. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And what go back to what Dad said earlier. Don't tell me you're awake and you're still falling into the sleep state of being separated.
Hmm.
Don't tell me you're awake and you're still falling into the sleep state of I'm not enough or I
Hmm.
can't do it. There has to come a point, like you said, that God is in a point, and I got to find that point. I got to find that point. And I heard, I mentioned this before. Lisa Natoli said this to us the last time we had a conversation with her, one-on-one conversation. She said Jesus didn't have a Jesus.
Mm,
He had to find his own gateway to
mm.
the
Hmm.
Father. He had to find it. He was just like us, a man, a human man who had
Hmm.
to find his way to the Father.
Exactly.
He had his realization of where the Father was. That's
Hmm.
that's mind blowing. That is
It
just
is
mind blowing.
staggering to know that this man, like us, behooved him to be like us,
Yes, sir.
face God
Mm-hmm.
inside of himself
Yes.
Hmm.
and would tell anybody where he was and who he was connected to, and did not have to say, "Let me show you in the book."
You know what else I realized too is that I started to say if that's where God is, then every answer that we need is there as well. It's inside of us. But I'm going to change it because we are that answer.
Mhm.
That
Hmm.
answer does not have to come to my mind. As that one, I will find myself living out the answer.
Exactly.
The answer to your situation is not something that can be revealed to you.
You
You
are.
are the revelation.
You are. Yes.
You are the revelation. Whatever you find yourself doing is going to be the answer.
Exactly. And I want us all to think about something as well. When we talk about Jesus and his story, okay, we really don't know a whole lot about. Just we had one brief moment when he was a child and he was at the temple and they were looking for him and he was
Mhm,
speaking to
mhm.
the elders there at that time and they was astounded by the wisdom. And then we don't hear no more about him. We don't hear nothing about his a lot of his childhood or nothing. And so at one point, like you were saying, he didn't have any Jesus to mentor him, to lead him, to guide him. So we have to ask ourselves this question. Of course, it would be an assumption because we have no script concerning it, but it came to a point where somewhere, and I would have to say, even in his youth, he knew
Had to.
exactly
Yeah.
who he was. And so when we find him in the temple, of course, we say his ministry began at the age of 30, but the, the time he was
We
born,
don't
the time
know.
he was going to see his ministry was already
Yeah.
in force. But anyway, when he read again from the book of Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me, and so forth and so on, he closed the book and he said, this day
Mm-hmm.
the scriptures has been fulfilled unto
Mm-hmm.
your hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point, we don't know, but at what point in his journey did he realize he
Yeah.
was the embodiment of everything that was written
And you know, it
in
even happened.
history?
You're right. And it even happened earlier when it said when he separated from his mom and dad when they were looking for him. You remember that? He was a
Exactly. And he was
child.
talking
That's
to
when
the elders at the
he
church.
was already with the lawyers and the doctors and talking or whatever. They were looking for him and they didn't know where he was. And then his response to them was, I have to be about my father's
Father's
business. So at
business.
some
Exactly.
point, Jesus knew, and Mary didn't tell him because he said she pondered all those things in her heart. She did not tell him who he was. She did
Exactly.
not tell him anything, and he had to discover it on his own.
Hmm.
But
Exactly.
at some point, he woke up in the dream.
Exactly. Exactly. And didn't ever and throughout the ministry, whatever, even dad was making reference to St. John chapter 10 when he said, I and the Father are one. And then of course the Pharisees wanted to stone him. And he asked the question, well, for what work do y'all want to stone me for? They said, not for the works that you have done that we want to stone you, but you being a mere man, make
Lord.
yourself equal with God. So you're blaspheming.
Mhm.
You're taking upon yourself the attributes and the characteristics of God. You're
Yes. Yes.
claiming that, but we see you as a mere man. Then he said, is it not written in your law, in your writings, in your scriptures? And I love what he said, that I said.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like. He said,
Yes.
I said is let them know before you put the first writing down, I was existing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so he said, is it not written in your law that I said ye are gods, making reference to Psalms 82?
And he said,
And
yes. And then he said, before Abraham was, I am.
I
And so,
I am. That's right.
man, we could go on and on with this. I know we probably left a lot of people because we weren't looking at a lot of comments. We were just kind of popping all over the place today, but it was good. Vincent said, I realized he knew the Father personally as a young boy in the temple because he says, if you were looking for me, you know I was about my Father's business. Yeah, he just mentioned that. Thank you, Vincent. Said, and Israel said he was listening and asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Eleanor, thank you, darling, for that cake. You are
Oh,
so
that's great.
wonderful. She made us a wonderful pound cake. Oliver says there is a resource in this earth that was delivered by an angelic host that share all the detail of Jesus' experience from birth to ascension. The Haitian called
I'm
Urantia.
familiar with that. I'm
Mhm.
familiar with that.
Yeah, yeah. That's a book that called the Urantia.
Never heard of it.
Yes, you
Hey,
have. You got
well,
copies.
I share. I can tell Oliver. See, I watch all these crazy documentaries on TV that some people in the Christian world would not watch. I watch
Mhm.
Ancient Aliens. I
Yeah.
watch all and even here recently there was a new discovery in Egypt and so forth. And so there are scripts out there,
Mm-hmm.
sacred scripts
Mm-hmm.
out there that
There
predates
are.
the Bible.
Yes, yes, there are. There are. Urantia is one of them. It's a whole bunch of them, like you said. Thank you, Oliver, for reminding us of that. And we are going to take off here. It's been great. I think you dropped the mic a long time ago because you quit talking.
Yeah, well, you were talking. I'm
He
listening.
he said his piece and then just dropped the mic. That's what he did.
And
Yeah,
exit stage right.
yeah. That's right. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. You brought it on home. Now you're out of here, right?
I mean, I can go again.
Ah, it's okay. We love you anyhow. We love you anyhow.
I can go again because they don't never come to an end. Not for me. Maybe y'all, but not for me.
Buzz said he has Urantia, hasn't read it yet. It's a big book. It's a very big book. He said I'm intimidated by very large books. I am too. I
I
am too.
I love big books.
That was a lady. That was a lady who went to heaven, and she talked about how Jesus appeared to her, and he invited her to come inside of him.
Mm, mm.
And she did because he wanted her to see what she looked like,
Wow.
looking at herself through his eyes. And she said the only thing she could see through Jesus' eye toward herself was absolute pure love. No judgment, but
Yeah.
pure love.
That's
And that's
good.
amazing.
That's
She
good.
standing outside,
That's
jumped
good.
in the inside of him, and looked back at herself
That's good.
at the same time
That's good.
and told her and showed her that she was nothing but love.
Ah, that's so good. On that note, we will take off. And we will see you again on Sunday. Cornerstone will see you at 10. And Bold will see you at 11.
And
Yay. We love you guys. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye
I
bye.
love y'all.